Well, welcome along to ZMS. It's quite a big night tonight. We have two races for you. In 2 minutes, 37 seconds, 36, 35, 34. It's 2-1 over to Calais. 53.8 kilometres, 393 metres of climbing. Most of that out of the sea, as we'll see in a minute when we see the route. Intervening this, here we are. So we're coming out of Folkestone there. Chapel de Fern. Interestingly, here in Kent, there's a few places with French names. There's obviously as a result of the Norman invasion some years ago and the settlement of the Normans in the area. As you can see, this dips down, it goes under the sea, and it comes out the other side. And if you're not familiar with where this is, Dover to Calais is the shortest sea crossing between Britain and France. And as you can see, it comes out on the French side and goes into a railway terminal there at the City of Europe at Saint-Get, and basically this is a tunnel under the sea that carries trains, and you can go on a passenger train, or you can stick your car on a car train and get across the channel if you don't want to use the ferry. Now, I have to say I'm a ferry person, so I tend to use the ferries more than the tunnel, but it's a very, very good bit of engineering, and it certainly, I think, is an asset to Europe. Now, obviously, I can't give you lots and lots of interesting facts about the seabed, but we'll do our best to keep you entertained along the way. Here's the standings at the moment. Henrik Mard, Pedlars in first and second place with John Beams there. Casper Heddenham from Denmark, of course, James Melville from Glasgow, Jan Linden of Pokermotion, and Peter Brookwavel from Berkshire. Joris Scheppers, Ratio Racing, Matthias Lundqvist, and John Sammett from Pokermotion, it's up in Staffordshire. Nick Greenhalgh from West London, riding for Ratio Racing. Make up the top 10. Now, you'll see this is based on time, and there's probably, with 22. So the top 20 separated by 16 minutes on overall time, and we've had 8 stages to date. So let's see how it pans out. Remember, not everybody rides in the races. You can ride it at different time zones. So there will be times accumulated in the earlier versions of this today. So, you know, as I say, it all has to be got together. They do a fantastic job at OTR putting all this together. So as soon as this race is over, they'll aggregate all the results and put up the times, I think, on their Facebook page. So you can have a look at that. 13 seconds to start. Let's go to the start line and see what we've got. 120 odd riders on the start line, and they're about to go in 7, 6, 5. But I won't count down. You can see for yourself too. Yeah, and then I did it. Off they go. The idea is you sprint as hard as you can to make sure you don't get dropped early on. A couple of people will have dropouts on the line and get caught out, I'm sure. Now you can see from the bottom of the screen, you get this deep descent where it goes underground. Now I'm interested to see what the graphics do here, because now I have to let you into a secret. And before I go there, I should explain we're not going to cover the whole of this race. We're going to flip over to my own race, the West London race, somewhere in the middle of this, around 7:30, and then come back for the finish of this. So I don't have to have done lots and lots of research about the seabed to give you interesting facts about what goes on just above the tunnel. I'll tell you lots of stories about my trips to France if we run out of interesting things to say in the race, but you shouldn't have to endure those, because we will go over flicking between the two races while they're both on, and come back for the finish of this one. So we'll start and finish with this race, and there'll be sort of intervening flip overs to the West London race, which I run, of course. So any bias you notice, you can complain to the broadcasters, but it's I'll try to be as fair as I can, and I don't choose when we're flicking over. That's the producer. So any perceived bias is not coming from me in terms of coverage. Both great races, of course, and you can see the peloton's sort of quite stuck together here. So this is not a lot to say at the moment. This is holding true. It's a flat race, and I suspect, you know, if you look at the beginning, there is this little lump just before they go down into the sea. I mean, the interesting thing about this is that although this looks flat, this is a hilly part of land actually, and the seam of chalk that makes the cliffs both on the UK and the French side of this, where this crossing is, it's the same seam of chalk that runs all the way through southern England and the South Downs, all the way down to Champagne. So it's the same, you know, essentially it's the same ground makeup, the same seam of chalk that Champagne, you know, runs all the way from Champagne to the South Downs in southern England. And in fact, the best, well, this is going to sound a bit biased, a lot of the best English wines do come from the South Downs off that chalk seam. I'm not a vineyard, I don't know everything about winemaking, but I do understand that the chalk is a vital component in the making of certain good wines, and certainly the brandy region around Cognac is also built on chalk. And they call some of their areas around Cognac Champagne as well. And I'm told that it translates, and I don't believe it's entirely French. I think it has an older, well, champ means fields, but I think it means white fields or something like that. Champ is definitely the word for field in French, so take that from right with you. But anyway, this is the same seam of chalk that we're cutting through. And what happened is that once upon a time, Britain and France were joined up. And the sea eventually eroded that chalk and created the channel of water that we're about to go under. But, of course, when either side of the channel just here, it's quite hilly because this was this sort of seam of hilly chalk. And therefore, as you can see on the race there at the bottom, we're soon going to go down a little dip and then up a rather steep climb. In fact, we've got this first climb coming up. So we've got one short climb, well, I suppose it's two, one and a bit short climbs. We're going up one at the moment, 7.5% gradient. Then we do that other dip, up another steep one, and then the drop down into channel. So any attacks really need to happen around here. We look in the Zoom room. John Beam's there. I'm sure he just sticks the film up because he always has that same sort of poker face concentration thing. Daniel Nurberger rocking around. Henrik Mart, who leads the series, of course, over there. And he's not pedalling. That is not a good sign. That is not a good sign. I wonder what's happened to Henrik. The way he's breathing, he's either sort of counting his breath before he swears at his technical dropout. I don't know, but there he is at the front. He doesn't look like he's moving, does it? On the so maybe his legs were moving, but there he is. Oh, I see the picture of Frodo. I don't know. He's certainly cycling there. Maybe he was just freewheeling down the hill. Sorry, I was probably should look at both screens. I think he must have been freewheeling there and getting his breath back because he's certainly in the lead and what have you. So forgive me. I shall keep my eyeballs spread across the two screens and keep a better handle on things if I can. Rasmus Feldball is making up the numbers along with Joris Sheffers. 5 in the Zoom room this evening, so you can see what they look like. Interestingly, 2 of them without jerseys on, and I can perfectly understand that because I get very, very hot doing this. Looking at the screens there, they're both on, everybody seems to be on sort of decent ascents at the moment, so the speed is a little bit down, sort of, well, a little bit down. It's below 20 kph, and you can see the field thinning there. That is really thinning out in the bottom picture. So the effect of the climb is taking its toll. Look at that. That is very, very stretched. We're looking. So this is going to do some damage. So we're not, by the looks of things, going to have a full peloton across the flats along the bottom of the channel, and we're only just coming up to the second of those climbs. And in fact, which the one that looks the toughest. Just look at that spreading at the back there. This is. I think it's more likely you're going to get it at the back. Somebody's going nicely up the hill there and then stops to and gets taken over by Dolce or Dulce. Wonder what's going on there. Kristen Edge, 52nd for Poker Motion. I'd expect to see him for the back. Julian Fussell for Southborough District Wheelers there. Mike Addy, 44. It's 16%. I'm not surprised they're only doing 9 kph. I'd probably be proud of 9 kph myself. So that is actually very, very steep on that first climb, and it has done some damage. Henrik Marg still in first place. He's got Rasmus Feldball on his tail, and Ivor Kopsy from Slovenia just ahead of that little pack there. Savela, Joris Sheffers, James Melville in there, I see, for Glasgow United, and John Beams ahead last in 11th place. This is stretched over 67 metres back to John Beams there. So yeah, definitely doing some damage is Henrik Marr. I have to say, I think if you get over this one and the second one and get onto that flat, then I think the top whatever bunch it's going to be will pretty much be decided. by that big descent down into the tunnel. So as I say, it is hilly around Folkestone and Dover, and in fact, if you've ever driven to the ferry terminal, you know that you go through some tunnels where the road, instead of making the road go over the hills, it just goes through the middle of them. Very short tunnels, but you can see the landscape as you drive into Dover. It is very, very hilly, and then just drops into the sea, where the sea has of course eroded away that chalk seam that once upon a time was joined Britain to France. Long before anybody living's lifetime, I can assure you, and obviously long before Roman times, because they had to come over in boats. So we're probably talking, I don't know how long we're talking, but it might be a million years, who knows? Who knows? But they definitely say that it was once joined. Pilot Marg now on the descent, -5. These three now a significant gap back to Joris Scheppers. Kyle's just been overtaken up on Ivor and Rasmus, but he's having none of that. He pulls back again. It's definitely he's definitely pedalling away now, isn't he? Sorry for my earlier misconception. I thought he'd sort of just stopped pedalling because something had gone wrong. Hadn't realised he was going down a hill, so I'm not looking at the gradients properly. You certainly know when you're going down a hill when you're on the bike. It's less obvious unless you're looking at the data when you're commentating. I'll have you know. So as you were, these three away at the front. Can this group work to pull them back? I think this is quite a big group, so they probably can, can't they? There's Zavelo, Joris Scheppers, Snova, James Melville. He likes to zoom off the front, and I think they're pulling them back, aren't they? It's down to 30 metres now, so I think there's going to be a coming together, but it's not going to be the size of the peloton we've had before. Looking now at the groups, it's certainly so Scheppers now. Well, he's got a few mates around him, but he's it's stuck at around 30 metres back to. In fact, actually, it looks like Copsey's pulled away at the front, hasn't he? So John Beams, 11th, a little bit behind. John Beams is a strong rider. I reckon he'll pull back into that group. I know John. He's an absolute fighter, and actually he looks a bit more pained than usual, but then again he has pulled it back. I said he would. Seen him do this sort of thing before. He's a very strong rider, had some fantastic displays of strength, power and determination over my time commentating these races. As we look in the Rasmus Feldball, absolutely screwing his face up there. He's fighting hard. And you can see there's a little bit of a gap there, isn't there? So we go back to 16th and 18th, and then there's a 40-metre gap to 53rd. So there's definitely splits in the peloton here. They're going to this flat bit now before they get over the hills and towards, I presume, the ferry terminal at Folkestone. It's actually just outside Folkestone on the motorway. But these three now clear. I mean, we saw Rasmus Feldball's face, and he's fighting to stay with them. Follows Ivor Copsey there, the Slovenian. Henrik Marg just sitting in there tightly. Let Ivor Copsey do all the work. And we see Rasmus not looking quite as pained as he was a moment ago. So he's obviously feeling a bit more comfortable sitting on the wheel of Ivor Copsey there, the Slovenian. Henrik now not quite breathing as hard as he was, so again probably enjoying that position, just sitting on the wheel. John Beams and his usual poker face back again. Daniel Nurschberg from Germany and Joris Scheppers making up the Zoom room this evening. So looking at these three out the front, and it's Ivor Copsey doing most of the work. Rasmus just slipping off the back a little bit there. He needs to work to stay on there. I think he's probably going to do it. The gap seems to be closing and he's back on. You've got to be careful not to do too much work just to stay on, because it can be as tiring trying to stay on as and it can outweigh the benefit you get from sitting on if you're not very, very careful. And O'Malley, very Irish sounding name with the Scottish soul tire, is leading the chase back with John Beams and James Melville just behind them. So Dirk, the Slovenian, just slipping off the back a little bit there from Solly, the Norwegian, in 10th place. You don't really want to fall off right now. We're just getting to that second climb. If you can get over that, I think, and stay in the group, you're in for a good position in this race. A little bit of a dip now in the profile. It's -5%. So it's a little bit undulating here because it's suddenly plus 1.8, but it's going to go down again, -2, as we can see there. And again, if you've ridden, if you've been to these areas, you'll know that this is hilly and undulating. In fact, some of the hills can be quite steep. And, you've only got to look at the profile of Dover Castle as it looks out over the channel. And to my surprise, I actually visited it after going to Dover for many trips to France. I finally visited Dover Castle a couple of years back, and it was surprisingly interesting. And I'm not the most prone to going to historical sites, but it was a good day out, if expensive to get in. And so there we are. It's there's Gavache now with Barnet for Southborough in this little group. So the two early hills have sorted out the pack, and if we look at the profile at the bottom, we can just see just how strung out that pack is now. We're looking at the blob. The big blob is obviously the rider we're focused on, which is, you know, this little clutch here of 12th to 15th, and you can see not too many groups ahead of them, obviously, because that's 12th, but everything is properly strung out behind, and we saw this percentage gradient go up to 16% on a very red bit of profile, and I think that has sorted out the running order under the sea through the channel. As I say, once they get into the channel, there will be a point where we flipping over to the West London race, and we'll come back to that. Hopefully the timings, we'll have to tell them to slow down on the front and make sure the timings work for us, so we can come back and watch them go up the hill on the French side of the channel at Saint-Guet, and see how that one pans out. Because I think, although it's in little groups, each little group will have a tussle on that final climb towards the end, at the Calais end of this, and they will be interesting to watch. So hopefully we'll be back for most of those. We'll certainly be flicking between the races as we do it. So, split screen, James Ogilvie. Sorry, I just missed that, James. You can put that up again, could you please, James? Sorry. Yeah, woohoo! 3 versus the rest. Can they keep the cap all the way to France? I reckon now that we've had Brexit, I reckon the immigration has stopped them and make them get their passports out, and everybody else will catch up. What do you think, James? It'd be interesting, won't it? I think they can hold the gap, personally. Yes. Iger is on the tunnel. Come on, pedallers. So Christophe Contant on the French side of the channel. So the other side. With a bit of input from the other side, although way further south, if I remember rightly, Christophe, than Calais. And here's me talking about hills. Christophe lives down near Clermont-Ferrand, so he has rather a nice bunch of hills to go out and cycle in the Massif Central there. I'm extremely jealous. I'd love to cycle up the Puy de Dôme one day. I've walked up it, but you can't. They shut the road now, so you can't actually go up unless they have special days or something like that. Anyway, back to the race. Let's have a look and see what we've got in the various groups. The group from 1 to 3 we know about. They're the guys out the front. There's a good 100 metres gap back to James Melville now. If I know James, he'll push that group and he'll go out on the front and see what he can do to make it pull away, and possibly drop some riders. Well, I think they're probably, if as James says, if these 3 can hold it to the front, and I think they can, personally. I mean, if you look at the blob there, we're getting to the top of that first, third climb, and once they're over that, I think it's going to be very hard to catch them. So the gap now, you know, we're looking at 120 metres. I think the 3 can hold that. I think we probably had a podium there. Again, where's where's Derek Bucott when you need him? He usually puts some money on this to make it interesting. Come on, Derek, where's your money? See what we can do. So I think, then you've got the second batch here, and you've got, numbers 4 to 10, and then another 140 metres back to John Beams. I think those gaps will now stick. So we look at James Melville from Glasgow. 2 Scotsmen leading this group here, O'Malley and Melville. You're a Shepherd's in there, Jan Linden, Solly, Cervelo, John Beams in the next group, of course. Sorry, he's not in the next group, is he? I do beg your pardon, it's 11th back in the next group, and it is... sorry, it was jumping about. It's John Beams is in this group, isn't he? So, sorry, it's Stevens and Snaver that are leading the next group from Norway, Slovenia, and there's a Dane just behind those. The numbers, the chart flicking around a little bit, so every time I say something it moves and it changes. These three are working together now. I think I said they're working together. I suspect Cox is doing most of the work. On the descent now, and this is the big descent, we've got James Melville chin on the bars, but he's down to 11th in his group, and that's okay if you just sort of make it up when you get to the bottom. We see these three now at the bottom under the tunnel. When you go through the real tunnel, it doesn't look like this. Now, I was fascinated to see what happened to the scenery when we got under the tunnel, and I say this out of a very selfish sort of like personal interest, because one race I ran, I did a there and back course, and so that it went there and back on the same road, and when I was plotting the course, I wanted to make sure that there was no clash of the nodes when I was building the course. So I made sure that the settings were such that the course, as I plotted it, was like right on the pavements of both sides of the road. And as it ran along the reservoir, what happened is actually when the thing was processed, the software thought that on the journey back, I was actually riding over the reservoir, and you can see that the profile there you've got. So if you plot it against the sea there, what you get is you get the bottom of the ocean as your profile, because I learned from my experience that's actually what it does. If you plot your route over the top of the water, it takes the bottom of the water. So anyway, when the scenery came out on the way back, because the actual reservoir had a vertical side to it, I found everybody racing alongside of sort of like some 100-foot cliffs or something, which are clearly not there, and people were sort of asking me, saying, well, how did you get cliffs in your scenery and everything else like that? And it really was because software thought I was riding along the bottom of the reservoir. And you can see here what it does is the technology takes the seabed as where you're riding, but of course it still produces scenery. Now the reason I got cliffs and this doesn't is because I'd done the other side of the road as the way out. So on the route it had one at, shall we say, 10 metres above sea level and one at 90 metres below sea level, and it just assumed there must be a cliff at the side, and it made for fantastic scenery, but there are no cliffs like that in London, I can assure you. So this is interesting. So they're on the seabed now, and no doubt under there's not a lot to see actually. If you ever go through the tunnel, it's pitch black, which is one of the reasons I actually use the ferries, because I use the ferry as a stop in the journey and have something to eat on the ferry, which if you go in the car, you're just stuck inside your car, inside a big railway carriage accommodating cars. On the Eurostar, which is the passenger train, of course it's very different. I'm glad to see the Eurostar's beginning to put more services on after COVID. I recently used the Eurostar to go to Ghent and watch the 6-day Ghent track cycling. Back to the race, and here's the further back in it, and we can see people in 102nd, no, 106th. They have done 9.5 kilometres out of the 44. They're just about to go up the third of the little ramps, and you can see it slowing right down to 17 kph there. And they get strung out, as so often happens on hills. We've all been on a club ride where we get strung out on the hills, but no stringing out for these guys. They are there, and they're going along the bottom. But wouldn't it be great if the scenery had bubbles coming out their mouth because they're on the seabed? But anyway, they no wetsuits required, no oxygen tanks. Although I suspect some of the guys in the old pain cave there wouldn't mind an oxygen tank just to help the breathing a little bit. Henrik Mard now taking the lead. Ivar has done his turn on the front. They're pumping out 42 kph on 0 degree gradient because it's dead flat down here, which is pretty decent speed. And I think they are now, 270 metres ahead of the rest. So they're obviously pulling away at a faster pace than the people behind them. And to go back to James's, will they make it all the way to France on their own? I think they will. And of course they pulled this gap out on the ascents on the English side of the channel, and they've got one more ascent on the French side up to Saint-Gap, and they, I think, have proved that they can do climbs. It's just really what these three do on that last climb. The cat and mouse effect. Will somebody go for it or not? But at the moment, I think it probably suits all three of them just to sit there and work together, take turns on the front, as we see Rasmus Feldball just on the back there. Of course, Rasmus and Henrik are in the pain cave zoom room, so we can have a look at their faces and how much they're suffering at some point. Ivar Kopsey from Team Lou. Let's have a look then. Henrik, he's looking cooler than he's looked so far, isn't he? Rasmus, mouth open, taking as much oxygen as he can, and he's swaying a little bit. But I think Rasmus is in a rhythm, and I think that's just his style, isn't it? So I think they're both looking fairly comfortable. I mean, put it this way, Rasmus, my mouth would be sort of absolutely gasping. I think yours is just optimised for maximum oxygen intake, isn't it? That's what you do. I don't know. I can't understand how people do it with their mouth closed. That's for sure. Anyway, there. Look, Rasmus closed his mouth then. Okay, so I think they're both looking quite comfortable, and we'll assume that they're going to get across front. I should imagine they'll extend that lead because whatever it was a moment ago when we looked, it's probably going to increase if they're going faster than the group behind. But of course, remember the group behind is slightly bigger, so the group effect could work for them. Here we look at the second group. 200, it has gone out a bit more, hasn't it? Look, it's heading for 300 now. As this group, the Joris Sheppers, James Mayfield, Savelo, John Beams, working together as a group, it looks like. But I think they're still losing ground at the front three. So maybe it's holding at around 280, but that's a huge gap to make up. That said, they are a larger group, and so we've got 7 of them. So let's see what happens. They're a comfortable 335 metres ahead of the next group: Stevens, Burdick, and others. So I think that's quite good. Remember, of course, this series is on time. So this is a commentator's curse now. I've got 2 different races. One's totally based on where you finish in terms of points, and this one's totally based on how much time gap you can have. So there's no incentive basically to perhaps sit in a crowd or maybe just sit up and think, well, I've got the race won, I can ease off in the last whatever it is distance, because the series is based on time. So these guys will want extra time. And that, of course, makes sense that even if you're not going to be able to contest a sprint, say in a group of 5, if you can get the other 4 to tow you along, it actually helps you out because you're getting some time. Probably not against those guys, perhaps, but against others. So sitting in groups, even if you have no intention of really contesting the sprint, is still a worthwhile tactic and beneficial to riders in this. We're looking at the first and second groups here. Second group a little bit lengthened there. I mean, mind you, the first group look like they're doing a team time trial, don't they? I mean, it looks quite efficient the way they're set up. The second group a little bit more sort of spread out and about. I mean, I don't suppose they're deliberately coordinating. I get the impression there's a little bit of people taking turns on the front. As you can see, look, Iger Copsey goes back to the back. I mean, you know, that's on and off the front, and that looks organised to me in the first group, whereas the second bunch are just sort of 6 or 7 guys riding along, and people ending up doing little spells on the front rather than organised on and off the front. Time trial sort of formation, chain ganging. So we're looking at the third group on the road. This is the 11th onwards. Again, same thing. I mean, they're not strung out in a chain gang on and off the front sort of formation. I wouldn't necessarily expect them to, and I think you should look at it the other way around and be impressed that the front three are actually, which I think shows a lot of professionalism and experience going on. So anyway, it's sorry, I'm just getting a bit distracted. Obviously, we're going over to the West London race at some point, and inevitably, as the organiser, I'm getting pinged with messages by people just wanting their team lineups tweaked and included in the ladies' race and things like that. So I'll try not to be distracted by all of that, but it's we shall see when we get over there and we follow it. Of course, this is the first time I understand that ZMS has actually done one of these double headers. We've certainly done races where there's been more than one race. Should we call it a race meeting, where there's several races going on at once, and we flick from race to race. But we've never actually done 2 independent events together, and so this is a bit of a breakthrough broadcasting moment. You know, the broadcasting history for e-racing going on here, and you're part of it if you're watching, and you're part of it if you're racing. So feel very, very proud of yourself. It's great stuff. Thanks for being here as well. It's great to have you along. And Eric is now stripped off and bare-chested, so it's only John Beams who's styling it out with the jersey still on, all undone of course. And it's I do admire how poker faced they can look, because I do not look like that when I'm racing, that's for sure. So having a look now at the groups, I don't think there's much change. I mean, the front three look very, very organised, don't they? I mean, this is exemplary cycling. They've eked out 360 metres now, and they're probably a quarter of a way across the channel now. So it's marvellous, actually. The other thing that when you're on the boat, of course, you can monitor how far and close you are, because on a clear day you can actually see from one side of the sea to the other, so you can actually see the other country in the distance just, but it has to be a very clear day for you to do that. But obviously once you get on a boat you can see both sides, and you think you're getting nearer and nearer. And of course actually the one thing is, if you're not used to it, I think the ferries go sort of directly across to France, but then they sort of kind of turn left and sail up the French coast a little bit, so you get all excited thinking you're just off the French coast, and then it kind of goes a mile or a couple of kilometres up the coast and into the port of Calais. I think it has to take a certain route, because the sea that we're going under is actually one of the busiest shipping channels in the whole world, and that's because so much shipping is going through to other countries. I mean, Belgium, Germany, the Scandinavian countries all use that route to get through to the Atlantic. So the amount of shipping going through there is phenomenal, and if you are on the ferry you will see lots and lots of dirty great big tanker container ships there with you. It's reasonably interesting. I don't know if there is such a thing as ship spotting, but if there is, I'm sure that's probably one of the best places you could ever do it. And people probably on the ships on their way to Rotterdam as well, I would imagine, is a big one there. So big Dutch port, if that doesn't resonate with you. Going back to the race, let's have a look. We've got on our screen. The top right hand corner looks interesting. 14th onwards, we haven't given them much coverage, so let's have a look who we've got in the 14th group up there with Gavash and Mark Rowbottom. I see is in there, along with Williamson, Roy the Rocket Neild, Akula, Welsh, and who else we got in there? Peter Brook. Oh no, they're just ahead of Peter Brookwavell from Berkshire in southern England with T. Simons, Daniel Nurschber from Germany, of course, Janssen, sorry, in there as well as Simons. I think I mentioned him, and the Dane Drum, Oram, sorry. It's anyway. So Mark Rowbottom there, Razia Racing kit, and most of the others. That's a Danish, the Oram is in the CKD kit. That's the Cycling Club Denmark kit, and that's probably about it, really. Oh no, I think the GBR kit is probably Pokemotion, so the white jersey with the red writing across is Pokemotion, and 3R in the light blue, red and white jersey there. So there's team spotting for you, and ship spotting to team spotting. These are train spotting is actually going down the list of important getting overtaken by ship spotting and team spotting here. Jersey spotting. Now that would be a if you think that most things that are collectible are based on a combination of variety and scarcity, collecting cycling jerseys would probably fit a lot of those things, and a lot of them would have interesting designs too, wouldn't they? And a couple of signed ones from famous cyclists would make your collection even better, wouldn't it? But anyway, my wife says I have too many cycling jerseys already, so we won't entertain that notion in this house. So all looking same as in the Pain Cave there, and as I say, the group's nicely split out on the road, maintaining a distance, gaining distance. And remember, as I said before, this series is about time. So position on the road, if you finish one place behind somebody, but you just lost 2 minutes, you lost 2 minutes. This is Tour de Monde. This is a stage race. It's cumulative and all the rest of it, versus what we're going to see in a minute, which is a series. And a series, for example, the one I run, the races are all different, but the point, they're roughly the same length, but you get points where you finish, and so you could finish a long way behind somebody else but only lose a point. And don't start me off on the points for the ladies section of it, because that's a little bit complicated for various reasons that I won't bore you with now, because to be honest, you'd probably find ship spotting more interesting. So we keep going. Trips to France. I always, living on an island like Britain is, it's got a strong naval history, and there was always sort of sense of adventure, I think, going across the channel here, and I think a lot of British people will share this emotion with me. There's it's kind of like you're really leaving your country when you get on a boat and cross the sea, or even these days go under the tunnel that we're riding under now. And equally, when you come home, there's sort of homecoming when you watch the cliffs of Dover getting nearer to the shore. So it's quite it has that sense of travel that I think you don't always get when you live in countries that are joined together and you just cross the border. So it's quite a point. It's quite an emotional thing. The sea, I think to most Britons, because we are islanders, and I suspect that's true of a lot of countries that are islands, whether it's Iceland or I don't know. There's lots of them, of course, but yes. So I think this is quite an important sort of in the psyche of British people, and probably to a degree the French. I mean, certainly in northern France, there's always a nice little spat going on between our various fishermen, and if you're not from France or Britain, you might not have had that in your news, but they're all squabbling about who's allowed to catch how many fish out of the bit of water that we're now going under. So if you do catch any fish, guys, while you're crossing the channel, and we're approaching halfway across now, so we're coming out the I don't know how they divide it up. I don't know sort of at what point you're kind of out of British waters and into French waters, so I don't know when you cross the border. Hope you've all got your passports, because we now need to show them after Brexit, and probably need a COVID pass as well when you get to Sangat, won't you? And I think so. You would need your COVID pass to say that you've either recovered or had the inoculations, and a passport. And if you're not from Europe at all, you might even need a visa. Right, the thoughts. This could really hold up the race. I've had some great experiences with that sort of thing. Forms and formalities at the border. Never actually got stuck, but had some scary moments. Not of my own making. Accidentally, of course, but not entirely of my own making. But there we are. Depends who you travel with. See, you should have better mates than me. Ivor Copsey now is at the back of this trio that are leading away in this Tour de Monde Stage 9, where we are, despite what you might see from the scenery there, we're actually under the sea. There are great big freighter tanker ships sailing above these guys, and here they are, no oxygen, and they're riding underwater. Isn't that splendid? I mean, in theory, I'm sure James will correct me, but in theory, what you do is you're saying that they're riding under the tunnel, so in the tunnel that the trains go through. So, of course, you know, the way this is plotted, the idea is you're going through the tunnel. But my instinct is that what the mapping software does is place you on the seabed. So, if I contradict the way OTR have advertised this, I'm being slightly disingenuous, slightly cheeky, and it's all done in good humour, because I think it's a splendid idea, and I think well done OTR for coming up with this one. Novelty all the way. In fact, they've done a splendid job with most of the courses around the world that they put into this series. Very well executed and very well supported. I think it's been a landmark for e-racing, and I think they should be very proud of themselves for doing so. So well done, James, and all the team. Still waiting for Derek to put some money on who's going to win this one, though. That's what we need. That's what we need to spice this one up. If you don't get the reference, last Wednesday I was covering this series, and Derek Pocock promised to bet a fiver on the front group not being caught, and they were by one rider. But we had a vote on the. If you're watching this on Facebook, you can actually, if you post on Facebook, it should come up on the screen. And they go through the halfway stage. That was the yellow banner there. So the front three are over halfway now. You can see in the top right-hand corner, pushing out 42, 43, which has been fairly consistent over this race. But as I was saying, you can actually post your comments on the gaps. 500 between 9th and 10th now. These are big gaps, aren't they? It's starting to get quite big. There's not a lot you can do about that. This is the second group coming through the halfway mark. The yellow banner there. Euro Shepherd's just sitting on the back, just going around the Locomotion riders. Jan Linden, one of them. So we got this is the next group, as I say, way back by the looks of things, but nevertheless working nicely together. I mean, I think this is the thing. You just got to look at this and say, well, you know, what's the point of attacking? Well, the answer is there is one point of attacking, that actually if you go off the front and stretch it, you might lose a couple of your competitors. And you can see a couple of Danes here now. You've got Snerver and Pinksgard there in the it's going through the halfway stage. They're in the red jerseys with the white band across the front. That, of course, is the ECKD, the Cycling Club of Denmark. Look at 17th. Roy Rocket Neild here in that resplendent jersey. I love that jersey. Mark Rowbottom just getting over the line. If that was there is sprinters points in this. I don't know if any of those halfway stages contribute to that. I don't know. Maybe James can clarify for me. But I see so Mark was just it looked like he was intent on getting to that line as quickly as possible, so there might be something in here. I think Nick Greenhalgh is currently the holder of the blue jersey for the sprinters. Well done, Nick. And I assume Nick might have ridden this morning actually, so I don't know. I haven't seen him in this race, so I assume he's ridden this morning, and he's probably going to be in the West London one. Just having a look at the West London start there. We've got 3 minutes to the start there. We can have a look at the course. I think there's nothing too much to tell you about this one. I can say that because I plotted it myself. Windsor Eton Bray, which I quite liked because the acronym is web, and we are racing on the web, of course. 15.7 kilometres, only 20 metres. I think my the GPS said it was 69, so I don't know what happened in the translation there. As you can see, it starts out of Windsor, where one of the Queen of Britain's homes is. It goes through Eton Wick, through Dorney, which the big lake you see at the bottom is the Olympic Rowing Lake, so that's where the 2012 Olympic rowing was done. We go through Bray, which is very well to do and very nice, and has a string of Michelin-style restaurants, and we stop in the middle of nowhere after crossing the M4 motorway. It's all dead flat. I think it should be a nice big peloton sprint finish. That's what it's designed to do, and we shall go over to the start in a minute, about 3 minutes away from the start of that race. So, it's a great double header, isn't it? It probably suits me a little bit because I think these little groups now, as we've just done halfway, so it's taken us 40 minutes to do halfway. On the basis it takes 40 minutes to get to the other side, it should take 20-25 minutes to cover the West London race. So we'll actually get the best bits of both. And wasn't that, I mean, the best bit of this so far on the OTR race, the Tour du Monde, was obviously that brilliant start with those steep climbs that sorted everybody out, and of course the tussle at the end on that last climb is going to be just as exciting. But while they sit going across this flat, I think the groups are going to pretty much stay as they are, other than somebody breaking away and putting a real pressure on and splintering somebody off the back of a group that can't quite take the pressure. So if you are the weakest member of a group and somebody decides to go off the front, if the elastic does snap, you are in trouble. These three now working together, still in that little line. I mean, it takes a bit of skill to ride in a line like this on RGT. There are TTT competitions on RGT. I mean, I have taken part in those. I'm not at the moment, and I'm not saying I ever perfected being able to ride like these three are. So chapeau indeed to them. So I think we're probably getting very, very close to the start of the West London race. So it'd be interesting to see how many starts we've got on the starting line of that. And I think what we got, I can't quite read it. So we've got 84 riders on the start here, and just looking for some names. There should be quite a few ladies in this one as well. Oh, Nick Giles from Pokemotion. Oh, lovely to see you, Nick. Actually, I suspect you're probably not going to post something on Facebook if you're actually in the race. Good to see you there, representing Pokemotion. Simon Hall from Watford Velo, Daryl Green from Watford Velo as well. Watford Velo, I think, got 5 riders in there. Yeah, Brian Vince is in there as well. So strong team out for Watford Velo today. TCC, if you see that on the end of anybody's name, is Twickenham Cycling Club. They put out a good field. They've actually got 3 teams in this competition, including a 4-lady team. Now, straight off the front, you have to pedal hard in these. They are fast races, and everybody knows that you have to. And we've got a 3R rider who's gone straight off the front, the Belgian banner, and Brian Vince from Watford Velo is straight on his tail. These are the key moments in these races. I rather like the race we've just been watching with OTR, just as the hills will break it up. In these races, if you don't make it onto the front, Jan Dekker, Ratio Racing, just up there as well. Vanna 3R, 3 Belgians on the front at the moment. Vanna Dekker, actually J Vanna and K Vanna. I wonder if they've got a friend called Ban. So as I say, this is the key moment. If you get into this group and hang on, you're fine. If you don't, you'll just find yourself in the next group down. But that's fine. Ned Bowen's in there, I see, from Chicago. You can see the split now because this is what happens. Everybody just bursts off the front and sees how many people they can shake off. The group behind will form into a sort of second group, and they'll have their own sprint. And we think this is natural selection because what you actually do is you end up in a group of riders of similar ability, and you can enjoy a sprint with them at the end. So, as I say, this is the key moment of these races. I mean, probably when we get to 2 kilometres, we should probably have a flick back to see how the guys are getting on in OTR. So Jared Miller out the front, a New Zealander who lives in Britain, in Hertfordshire. It's particularly He's got a nice little gap there, 14 metres. I mean, he won't hold because the peloton's just too big. But well done, Yared. That's quite. Doug Hart coming up. Doug Hart's had some great results recently. Man from no pins. John Sammer in 4th place at the moment is Jonathan Frost for Twickenham. I said the TCCs, that's Twickenham Cycling Club. So John Frost up there. Yes, and James Curry for Southwood District. Now James is up there. He's actually competing for the series, so watch out for him. Nick Giles from Pokemotion up there at the top, as you'd probably expect. Paul Hinson, who recently joined our 21 Dun Club. If you ride 21 of these races, we send you a free badge, and I had the pleasure of sending Paul one very, very recently. I'm just trying to see who else is in there. I'm hoping it'd be fantastic if one of the ladies had managed to get in this group. Anna Ronkanen managed to get into this group in one of our recent flat races and held it all the way there. So Nick Greenhouse, Ratio Racing is here. Simon, he's in 20th. He's in the second group. Oh, no, he's not. I beg your pardon, no, it's the first group. Simon Hall there from Watford. Nick Charles from Pokemotion leading the way in those white Pokemotion jerseys with the red writing. Moonriders, Ryszek from Poland in that group as we look from the aerial angle. As I say, so that group's down to about 20 riders. And this is fairly typical. It will split into what I call natural selection. You can be unlucky and find yourself in the second group. But I see both Ratio Racing riders here tonight. So that's Jan Decker and Nick Greenhouse have got themselves in that group. Brian Vince for Watford, and I think James Curry was in there for Southborough. Just names that Thomas Nygren in there, Miles Askew I see, Carlos Sella from Spain, 32nd. This is a further back group, isn't it? There's Anna Ronkanen, 36. So she's in the second group, which is pretty decent. And if she's in the same group as Carlos Sella, I see Simon Hall from no, actually this is the first group, isn't it? Maybe not. Simon Hall from it's the second group, isn't it? Andy Beale there from Wesley. Simon Hall from Watford Velo. I see. Just trying to see who else is in there. Daryl Green from Watford Velo in there. Did I see Rafa Nunes in there? Oh, well done, Rafa. Good stuff. Ecuadorian. He's now plays in Stoke. Well done, Rafa. It's good to see you in that room with Carlos Sella and the likes. Tom Gates in that group. I would expect to see him further up. Quite interesting. Andy Beale pushing away there in the purple jersey. Meanwhile, back at the front group. No, hang on a minute. This is all one group, isn't it? Yeah, I think it is. Sorry, I beg your pardon. So that group's bigger than I thought. It goes up to 30, isn't it? So that is all front group. So in fact, all my comments about Tom Cakes and all the rest of it means they are in the front group, if that is correct. Maybe not. I'm getting a bit... yeah, maybe that is 30 riders. Sorry, but yeah, because I can see Brian Vince at 34, 35th. Yeah, so all those people like Gates and all the rest of it are in the front group after all. I beg your pardon. So that's quite good. I mean, Simon Hall doing well there. I know Watford Velo have put out 5 riders tonight, and they have 4 in the team, and I think they had the Daryl Greens in the front group, and that's the guy they left out of the team. Oh no! Oh dear. Oh shit. Sorry, couldn't say that. That's bad enough. Brian Vince, though, nevertheless, for Watford Velo showing the way. Watford have picked that orange and black kit. Their actual colours are red, yellow, and black. So red and yellow mixed make orange. Good choice. Let's go back and have a look at what's happening under the sea, shall we? So if we can have full screen on the Tour du Monde, if we could, and we'll just flip through the groups there. The front 3 now comfortably out at 500 metres. So it hasn't changed a lot. I mean, they're still pushing out that steady 43 kilometres per hour. But the gap holding steady, which suggests your Sheppers, Jan Linden, et al. Are holding their own, or very close to that, as we look at Group 2 here. That's Group 3, isn't it, I think? Yes, that's Group 3. That's Gavash, Shanala Stevens in the Moonriders jersey there. The Slovenian rider, Kingsguard from Denmark, and I'm trying to think who Southborough rider must be Gavash, wasn't it? This is the second group, so they're holding together quite nicely. 6 of them in there. Oh, we have a breakaway at the front, and it is Nick Giles from Pokemotion. And that is quite an impressive breakaway, Nick. 10 kilometres to go. I think that'd be hard to hold. Doug Hart pushing away. Now, Doug Hart's, I say, been riding quite well recently in Vanna, the Belgium, again, who we saw earlier pushing out. So Doug Hart's made the bridge. Now, what often happens in these races, and Doug Hart gives us a little wave. Thanks, Doug, mate. Well done. It's quite an impressive bridge. Now, you dragged some people along, but you have stretched the, this is between Doug and Nick Giles. Between them, they have stretched this group, and what quite often happens here is the Moon Riders rider just going up to join those two. It's Wouter Claes, the Belgian, and what happens is you stretch it, and you can see there's just 3 or 4 in that little middle ground, and 3 or 4 people are just straggling off the back. The likelihood is somebody is going to not quite make it back on. And there's a couple of riders back there at 35th. There's a Polish rider I can see, and Daryl Green from Watford at 35th needs to work some to get back on. If he's, I mean, this is difficult when this happens. The gap now is a little bit. It's getting longer as we see the name is painted across the road. So that's caused one of the splits. That was Nick Giles, aided and abetted by Doug Hart. As we look back, oh, I see Daniel Margulis is back in, the Brazilian. James Curry back there. So this has left some people. Oh, something's gone wrong on the South riders there. That is not good news. Oh no, it's James Curry as well. Oh goodness, James is in. He's in. I hope he gets going again, because James is actually competing for the series. That is not good news. James Curry with the technical there. As other riders go past, he's going to lose places. But remember, unlike the stage race series, you know, he can lose loads and loads of minutes as Matt Hammond takes the lead out there, and he's gone out solo. You can lose loads and loads of minutes, but it's the places you lose. So we had one recently where Alistair McAlpine had a mechanical. He couldn't get the bike out for 20 minutes, and everybody else had finished, and he got on his bike and just rode the rest of the course to pick up the points for last place, because they helped towards his overall position. So not always the same. Casper's Headerdam is just ahead of Cavalius, the German, and against Simon Hall for Watford just behind there, and Wouter Claes in the mix, as you'd expect. Wouter Claes leading the series. He is doing very, very well in this series, and he's probably the star rider so far in the series. The other star rider of these events has been hitherto Nick Owen. Hasn't had the greatest results recently. He's been a bit unlucky, but Matt Hammond has pulled out 32 metres, and whatever happens here, I think that they will catch him, but not all of them. I think this is going to cause more damage. As I say, tactically, this is why you go off the front. It's not that you will get away solo. What you'll actually do is just drop a few people off the back, because not everybody will be able to hold this. So they come back together again, but very, very strung out. If somebody keeps that tempo going, you can expect to see splits. If they don't, you won't. If we go through the halfway stage, Andy Beale's still in the front group with Miles Askew from Moon Riders. Great to see them both. The Matthias Bergqvist in there too. Stuart Gillies, I see. Thomas Nygren from Sweden. Anna Rankkinen. Oh, she's in there. This is fantastic, Anna. Don't let it go, girl. Go for it. Go for it. Go for it. Get in there. Don't let it go. Now, I did say that the ladies' scoring is a little bit complicated. I think Anna's just lost that group. What a shame. Nevertheless, the way it's quite complicated. I say it's quite complicated, but it's not rocket science, I assure you. But I've kind of tweaked it in a way that I think suits making it sort of more interesting for the ladies, and it's probably less easy to understand straight away. But basically, the first lady will get 100 points, and how many points all the ladies behind get depends where they finish relatively to Anna. So if Anna finishes, let's say, 80th in this race, she'll get 80. She'll get 80 points. It's not 80th. If she finishes 20th in this race, she'll get 80 points or 81 points for finishing 20th in the unisex race. She'll get 100 points for being the first lady. Now, all the other ladies, you'll find their relative position and work out their points going backwards. So it's not going to be instantaneous, and poor old ladies have to wait for me to process all the results before they know what they've actually got in the ladies' competition. There are all sorts of reasons I won't bore you with as to why it's like that. And just before I start rambling about that, let's have a look at the Tour de Monde, shall we? Let's see how those guys are getting on. Because I get the impression that something's happening to this front three, because Rasmus, who was the one with the most pained face in the paint room, is slightly behind now. He appears to be pulling that gap together, but I think it looks like he's going to have to work hard. And remember, chasing back on, he is going to get back on, I think, but chasing back on, look at his face. I mean, this is a man putting his effort. He's done it. Absolutely fantastic. Well done, Rasmus. That was absolutely brilliant. Fantastic stuff. So Tour de Monde, let's just have a quick look at the second group before we go back to the closing stages of the West London race. So here we are, Group 2. That gap is now 100 metres more than last time we looked. I mean, it's 650, so the prediction that they would hold it out, and you can see we're getting ever closer to that climb out into St. Gat. So it's we'll have to see. We've got 6 kilometres left in the West London race, which is riding at about the same speed. If you look at the two speeds there, they're around that 40 kph in both races. So by my calculations, with just over, well, say 6 kilometres to go in the West London race, they should finish with 6 or 7 kilometres left in the Tour de Monde race. Sorry, I'm getting distracted again. So therefore, we should be able to show you the best bits of both, because that should include all of that climb out of up to Sangat. So this is a bumper production, isn't it? You would actually think that James Ogilvie and I sat down and calculated this. We honestly didn't, but in future we'll pretend we did. How about that, James? What a fantastic double header. Nick Giles from Pokemotion now pushing out front. I guess Nick's standing in for somebody else in Pokemotion. He's probably doing the Tour de Monde here, because Pokemotion are leading the team competition in the West London VR series. And this group, I'm delighted to see Andy Beale up there. I think this group is thinning though, isn't it? I mean, we saw Anna Ronkanen just lose it. The best thing Anna can do, I would suggest, and she might think differently, Miles Askey from Moonriders just off the front there, Nick Greenhouse in there. Tom Gaeks from the Netherlands is a strong rider and could very well be in the fight at the finish. 84 riders still in here. Doug Hart showing what he's all about at the front, as he so often does, and Wow to Play is definitely showing us what he's all about as he goes on the as he goes out front. And I think this is going to be one of these little areas now where we see just about who can hang on there. Stuart Gillies from Twickenham Cycling Club is in the mix there. I see some other Pokemotion riders, and Nick Greenhouse, Ratio Racing. Paul Hinson's still in there, I'm delighted to see in 10th place. Jan Dekker, the Belgian, the other Ratio Racing rider, alongside Nick Greenhalgh this evening, as we see one of the Danish riders is Kasper Hednum from the ECKD, the E-Cycling Club Denmark. Nick Giles still up. Nick Giles has been very out there today, hasn't he? He's Kasper likes to be on the front as well, doesn't he? You can always rely on Kasper to light up a race. He's always great to have him in your races, and I think him alongside Wouter Claes and Doug Hart, and well, there's a few of them all gone out on the front, and Chelis Cabana. Actually, I think somebody's just dropped off the back there as well, haven't they? So it's sort of holding together. I think with these sort of tactics, you only lose a few at a time. And we'll get to. I'm just thinking if we probably should have one flash back to the Tour de Monde before this evolves into the finish, just to check that nothing's gone on there. No, it's the front three together. The second group look fairly tidy, looking at the time gaps. So I think they're getting ever closer. There is a slight gradient just coming up. You can see in the Tour du Monde there. If you look at the bottom right of the left-hand screen, it does start rising, albeit with green, before we actually reach that climb up into Saint-Gat. So, as I say, there'll probably be a little bit of climbing. Gradient shown as 0% at the moment in that race, 0% in both races. In fact, you can see how flat it is in the West London one. So yeah, I think, as I say, we're back to West London here. That group's looking ever thinner to me. 22 is Tom Gates, so we're probably just over 20 odd riders in that group. Doug Hart now on the front, as he so often is, putting down the power. There's nobody within sight looking back, so we've got 25 at Calais, so it's probably 25, maybe actually he's had a couple of people, so maybe 27 riders in this group who are going to contest the finish with 2.8 kilometres to go, powering away at 40 kph on the flat, which looks the same speed that we're seeing in the Tour du Monde race. The Tour du Monde race is considerably longer, of course, so they've responded. They've gone up to 43 now in the West London race. 2.5 kilometres to go. Casper Hednam now just giving it a shake up on the front. Everybody doing this, I think, just to see if they can get riders off the back. Because the one thing is, even if you don't win the sprint, less riders in the group, the better the chance. Stuart Gillies for Twickenham in there. Oh, somebody's just gone to face Matt Hammond again. That man. Pierlini is in there as well for the Italians. Quite a select group. Carlos Sella, I mean, you hardly ever mention Carlos Sella, but he's actually just one of these stalwarts who comes in, he gets good positions all the time, and he has actually in previous series had some of the most emphatic wins we've ever seen. There's a little group of 4 breaking off the front here, and this could be decisive. This is a strong group. Matt Hammond, Nick Greenhouse is probably not going to let that go, and I know John Sammet won't. I think these guys just behind are going to pull together, and in fact it isn't Sammet and Greenhouse that are going to do the work, it's others, but they're not going to let the 4 get away. 1.8 kilometres to go and it all comes together again, but the pace is upping. Look at that speed now. We're doing 47. Well, as soon as I said that, they dropped speed. The pressure will go down now. This is going to be a fast finish, and not everybody will be able to contest the sprint right at the end if they do that. I mean, in the past we've had massive bunch sprints, but I think this is one of these races where the fast guys are really going to put it down in the last kilometre, and it will be a select group that actually duke it out in that last couple of 100 metres. This is a select group, and the numbers getting thinner and thinner, I suspect. We've got probably again about 25 riders. Jan Decker in there. Who would you put your money on in this? I think, look, we're coming up to the Flamme Rouge now. I can only speculate as to who might win this one. I think there's several. Wouter Calais is the obvious bet. He's leading the series and he's had some fantastic wins. I wouldn't discount Nick Giles or Doug Hart either here. And Jan Decker, I have seen absolutely destroy fields at the end. Carlos Sellers on his day, a very good rider too. Matt Hammond's, look, this could go anyway. 700 metres, it's bunched at the moment. I think when we start getting excited, probably on about 500 metres, although Nick Giles is giving that little poke up front, is he? No, maybe not. He's just sitting there. You know, if it is a bunch sprint, you need to time it perfectly, and you don't really want to be in the front going into this. Great to see Paul Hinson up there. I hope you got the badge that I sent you. We're down to that 500 metres mark. This is where I said it might start getting exciting. Everybody's a little bit cagey. Nobody going for it yet, despite Carlos Sella coming up on the outside. Now, this is the sort of thing Carlos Sella might do. He might go for it, but he's not got enough to get out the front there. Stuart Gillies giving it a little go for Twickenham. Jan Decker coming up through the middle. But who's this going off the front? It is Jan Decker, straight out of the middle. This is the sort of thing Jan Decker can do. Now, he is powerful, but he hasn't got away from Tavalis yet. Tavalis is going to look like he's going to... Oh, he's sitting... But here comes a peloton. They're going to sweep by. Ned Bowen, king of the sprint. Can he do it? No, it's Matt Hammond. Absolutely fantastic. I thought Ned Bowen was coming through there. Ned only got second. Matt Hammond holding him off. What a finish. We'll run through the top 10 and get back to Tour de Monde, but just let's go through that. Matt Hammond, Ned Bowen came back to something like his normal form. Miles Askey for Moon Riders, Pippin Jan Decker, who went for it early on. Ratio Racing's Nick Greenhouse, former champion of this series, getting fifth there. Cavelis, the German, a very impressive sixth. Tom Gates, a great rider, who absolutely smashed it a couple of races back. Pippin without the Clays. Now, both of those two have got some terrific results lately. John Samet from Pokemotion in there as well. Casper Hedenham at 10th. One of the Vanners, K-Vanner, getting a 9th for Belgium too. Well, fantastic sprint there. I don't know if anybody else is about to finish. If not, we ought to go back to Tour du Monde. I'm going to assume that Anna Ronkanen is going to get the ladies' win today. It would be nice to see if we can see any of the other ladies further back. Just having a look down this group now. I know most of these people. Stuart Thorne's in there, Rafa Nunes. So I don't think there's any of the ladies in there, so I can't see Anna in that. It's any other groups we can have a quick focus on to just get a picture of where the ladies are. I will certainly be processing all the results. Gordon Thacker, my mate in there. Stuart Thorne out on his own at 54th. Go Stuart, he's a strong rider. Tim Cummins at 58th, I can see there. I see Vigario. I'm sure that's Craig. This is Craig Wilkie, I should imagine that is. Here we are. Did I just see? I thought I saw one of the ladies then. No, maybe not. Sorry. It's I'm just trying to work out exactly where they are. I've seen Wilson up there. I'm just trying to see if I can. There's the 75th, Linda Van Dyke there from Australia. I'm picking out, and I would expect to see somewhere around there some of the other ladies. Certainly Ellen Lockett and Wendy Wondervilles, probably around those sort of zones as well. I'm not sure. Maybe they're a bit further ahead. There's Wendy Wonderwheels, 70th. Sorry, I missed her, didn't I? From New Zealand, of course. Claire Miller from Twickenham in 71st as well. So we're picking out the ladies now, aren't we? So we've got Wendy Gallagher, Wendy Wonderwheels, Claire Miller riding neck and neck. And that's a little sprint to be had, 1.1 kilometres to go. I don't know whether we can enjoy watching these two ladies duke it out. I don't think they're going to get the win because I'm assuming that Anna's ahead of them. But remember, it's worth beating the other one out of these two. This is proper ladies racing going on now here. And it's worth beating the other lady just because, of course, you will get 1 point ahead of her because it is your points are relative to the winning ladies, but they're also relative to every other female rider in the race. So you do want to get points ahead of the other one. So let's hope we're going to get a fantastic little sprint between these two. It'll be interesting to see how this one plays out. And you can see Linda just behind. She's in a little group, and it's worth her while beating the two, I assume, men that she's riding with. Assuming now, might be wrong, but if she's riding with two men, it's worth her beating those men because her relative position towards the women ahead of her and behind her will score her more points. 500 metres to go. Claire Miller for Twickenham Cycling Club, just pushing ahead of Wendy from New Zealand. Wendy riding for OTR there, who of course are running the Tour du Monde, which we're going to flip back to after we've watched this little tussle here, 300 metres. Nobody giving the game away. You can't tell, can you? It's is it Wendy or is it Claire? We just don't know. They are neck and neck. Nobody's sitting on anybody's wheel. Claire's giving it a little dig out the front, or is Wendy trying to sit on a wheel? I don't know. 200 metres to go. You can get that little bit of a push if you time this right. 200 metres, probably a little bit early, but Wendy's going for it. Wendy's gone for it. She's out the saddle. She's pushing away. Can Claire respond? Claire's responding. Claire is nudging ahead now. This is exciting. I think Claire's just got it. I think Wendy might have gone a little bit early. Maybe not. Oh my goodness. It's that was. I think Claire just got that, didn't she? Oh, that's fantastic. Well done, ladies. I see Lisa West from Twickenham is in 77th. Couple of places behind Linda Van Dyke, but quite a distance because between Linda and Griselda Pulga there from Spain, of course, is a lady as well. So Griselda and Lisa West should have a little race. Here's Griselda from Spain, as I say, coming home in the West London race. Well done. Thank you very much for all the entertainment in the West London race, everybody. Thank you very much for taking part. As the organiser, I'm especially grateful. From ZMS, we're grateful. I think it's time to go back to Tour du Monde now because they are beginning that ascent, that final ascent. And I think this is where it's going to get exciting as we see Griselda just going through the Flamme Rouge there in the ladies' competition on the West London side. And we have the same three at the front. Now, you've just seen the gradient in the Tour du Monde on the left-hand side go up to 6.5%. This is where this race is going to get interesting. We couldn't have timed this better, could we? I think, you know, I don't know who takes the credit, whether it's Simon, Damon or me, but it's sorry, not Simon, whether it's James, Damon or me, James Ogilvie from OTR, or not. I think it was Damon's idea to actually fuse the two races, but the timing was perfect. And another course on another day, it might not have worked so well, might it? But we should all take credit from it. And a future planning tool for double header nights on RGT and ZMS. All three of them staying together at the front there. I think Rasmus is probably going to be the one where the elastic breaks, and it looks like it might just be snapping now. The gradient's only 1.2%, but exerted pressure from the other two can make it difficult for Rasmus. He's we've seen him fight and get back on the end, back on there though, hasn't he? So it's not over. It's not over by any means yet. I just got a text from Damon. Right, so I'm rabbiting on about how well designed these two courses and how they complemented each other for a double header. And I was going to give Damon so much credit for coming up with the idea of double header in this. And he just texted me to go, it's a brilliant fluke. Oh well, at least you get honesty, don't you? Rasmus has slipped off the back in Tour du Monde. We're just seeing Griselda finish in the ladies' race. I will compute all the ladies' race results, and they will be on westlondoncycling.com in a few hours' time. I'd get set on them now, but I'm too engrossed in the Tour du Monde as Rasmus is now, I think, off the back and is going to have to set off third place on an 8.3% gradient. They're about halfway through this the steep bit of the climb. You see Rasmus out of the saddle now. I don't know if he's in the Zoom room, but it's I think it's now between Eiger and Henrik, and as we see, Henrik just sitting on Eiger's wheel there. Well, they've been working together these throughout the race. I mean, third place for Rasmus would be great. I mean, what Rasmus needs to do is just try and keep them within sight to minimise the time gap. Would be my advice. As we see Jessica Wright in the West London race, just finishing there. I think she sort of said, actually, if we can go back, we can have a quick look at Jessica again, Damon, because she did say don't mention her in the commentary. There she is. Look, Jessica's finished 78, sorry, just behind Lisa West of Twickenham. Another couple of ladies there. Thank you for racing, Jessica Wright and Lisa West there for the ladies. As we flick back to Tour du Monde, sorry, and in the pain cave, and let's have a look. Rasmus looking pained as ever. I mean, I'm not surprised on this gradient. It is tough. Now, the other two that have got away are now on the descent. So this is the descent to the finish, and this is going to be interesting because so far we have not seen anything to suggest that you can put a cigarette paper between these two, but that might change, mightn't it? Henrik, of course, leading the series. Igo is one of the guys in the pack behind him, so both of them have a vested interest. Bonus points on the line, so of course, relative to each other, it's important. Iger just pushing away a bit there, steals a few metres. Is it decisive or not? He's just got 12 metres. 14, that is big. Can Henrik pull this one back? Has he been caught by surprise? Don't forget, at this point, he's going to have got a rider faster than Igor, but Igor, of course, is he's out of the saddle. Is Henrik? That gap looks to me like it's getting bigger. I think it's not a lot. He's holding it, and I think it might even be narrowing a little bit now. We've got 2.3 kilometres to go in this race, and 2.2 kilometres to go. The gap looks to be it's stretching a little bit more now, though, isn't it? Maybe not. No, maybe it's narrowing again. Oh dear, talk about yo-yo. I think Henrik's actually going to catch him again, isn't he? Now what Henrik needs to do is probably sit on his wheel at this point, get his breath back. He's not looking out of breath, is he? He looks more out of breath when he was going downhill at the beginning. In fact, he's just showing Igor what he's got in him. Henrik riding for OTR, of course, the promoters of this race. So they're back together again. We've only got a short distance to the finish. Rasmus now looks adrift, and so I say we're getting ever closer to finish. It can't be far. We must be hitting the Flamme Rouge fairly soon, and it'll be interesting to see what these two can produce. It's no time there. Henrik's just well, no, they're kind of working together still, aren't they? 1.3 kilometres to go. You can see the Flamme Rouge just at the end of this straight now, and if you look at the profile, they're still going downhill, although it levels out to the finish. So it's going to be any free riding is about to end, and it looks like it's a fairly level gradient up to the finish. We're at minus 1.9 at the moment as we go through past the Flamme Rouge. So who's going to gain time on the other here? Bonus points at bonus time at the finish, I should say. Rasmus now is 500 metres behind. As I say, it's not really in his interest to sit up and just let them get away. Safe in the knowledge James Melville is an equal distance behind him, because this is a time-based series, so he will want time. As I say, I think psychologically you can sit up and say, well, I'm not going to beat those two, but I don't think that is really what Rasmus wants to do as he approaches the Flamme Rouge. Nick Greenhalgh, who has just finished in the top 10 of the West London race. Come on, Ratio, big push for the end. Great going, guys. That's Nick all over, tremendous guy, encouraging his teammates, of course, despite probably still getting his breath back from a top 10 finish in the West London VR series. Both of these series, I'm sure James and myself will. James Curry, yeah, James, thanks for letting us know. I saw you crash in mid-race. So that was, I take it you didn't get back on, James. Really disappointed for you because you really were up there for the series. If you can get it working again, James, finish the race, because that's what Alistair McAlpine did. As we see, sort of, I'm rabbiting on about responding to that, and we see Igor take it from Henrik by a good few metres there, so a couple of seconds in the Tour de Monde finish. James Curry, if you can get on your bike and finish, you can still collect points at the end. Rasmus coming in third. So well done at Igor Kopsy there, taking it from we can see now, look at the time gap, 0.06, so it's not a great deal of time difference. It's let's say if you look at the time, it's almost the same. Rasmus coming in now in third place. I think it's going to be quite an exciting bunch sprint in the next group of 6, isn't there? With I think we've got some decent riders in there. James Melville, John Beams, Velo, Jan Linden, Hulsmans, and Joris Scheppers. I see. I think that's everybody. So I think there's a nice little sprint coming up in the what was the second group. Actually, it seems to have split up a bit as Sully is taking fourth place quite clearly. Joris Scheppers, James Melville just taking it from Joris Scheppers on the line there. Jan Linden. So that did split at the end. Of course, this is a 53-kilometre race. It's harder to stay together. Hulsmans from Belgium, now in 10th place, is only 600 metres from the line, but needs to keep his pace up because anything goes wrong now. He's got another little batch of riders, Newton, Barnett, Klingsgaard, Stevens, Schnever, not far behind him, 150 metres. They shouldn't really catch that over 500 metres. But as we saw with James Curry there, who just flashed up a message and distracted me, poor old James had a technical, and this happens. I was commentating on a race the other day where somebody actually got a technical about 10 metres from the finishing line and just had to watch all the other riders pass them. Very disappointing. 250 metres down to 200 metres for Hulsemans, the Belgian. You can see the finishing line, and he's going to come in 10th place. In fact, if you look at that, there's only 100 metres back to the next group, and it was 140 metres, so he's lost a little bit of time on the other group. One wonders if they're racing each other a little bit more. Let's see, 11th is Barnett, Southborough, Kirksgaard, Danish riders coming in a group, Klingsgaard and Snerver. Newton and Stevens along just ahead of Gavash, and Virch for Slovenia. Roy the Rocket Neild is coming in next. As we look at the classified results now, Igor Kotze at 1:18.51 over the 53 kilometres in the riders still coming in. Mark Rowbottom there we see. Rasmus Feldball stayed with them brilliantly, but it was Igor Kotze and Henrik Maard Henrik Maard from Pedlars who really stole the show at the end. Igor Kotze just pulling away at the end there to take the stage. But only 2 seconds ahead of get a little wave from Keith Etchison there. Hi Keith. And it's as I say, I think Rasmus did really well. Igor Kotze, of course, just showing a little bit of class right at the end to nick it from Henrik Maard, who leads the series, of course. 4th place, Torley Solly, Ratio Racing. That'll please Nick Greenhalgh, who's watching, and Joris Shepherd's in 6th for that team as well. So Ratio Racing taking 4th and 6th. That will please Nick Greenhalgh no end. James Melville for Glasgow United in 5th place. Jan Linden from Pokemotion is in 7th place. John Beams, Pedlars, again, John, a strong rider. Look at the times here. There's a 4-second gap between 6th and 7th, but you're starting to see a little clutch. Now, I suppose it's a clutch from 6th to 10th, isn't it? That was that little group. Spread out at the end, so we didn't have too many toe-to-toe sprints, so to speak. Igor Kotze, of course, pulling away from Henrik Maard at the end. Hulsemans, who we just seen finish, was a little bit of solo. Greg Marlett leading the next pack, and you see that little pack back to Jonathan Stevens in 16th, including Jep Slaver, Mads Klingsgaard, Greg Barnett, and Paul Newton. Gavash in that group, in the next section, probably just probably clear from Joris Versic. Rocket Roy Neild, love the name. He is such a great name, Rocket Roy Neild. He kind of has sort of like in itself a boxing, doesn't it? Absolutely brilliant. 1:21.41, 7 seconds clear of Christian Akula and Kelis Vesper, who's another one of my favourite names in these things. We're going to get some more results. Fantastic. And keep me talking, Damon. So, who do we get down to? Kelis Vesper, because I like that name, don't I? I'd love to know his real name. I think I saw it once on Strava or something. I haven't forgotten it. Is it Thor for Moon Riders? His names just get better and better, don't they? Jürgen Janssens. Unfortunately, Mark Rowbottom to a British year doesn't sound brilliant, but Ratio Racing picking up 23rd and 24th with Ben Phillips. And Ben Phillips invented the name Ratio Racing, if you didn't know. Ratio is the Welsh name for racing. So literally, Ratio Racing is racing in English, or Ratio in Welsh. Arne Fix was just behind Ben Phillips. Peter Hookmabel from Berkshire in southern Britain was 26th, ahead of the German Daniel Nussberg. Timo Achenbeck from Moon Riders picked Martin Urum from the Danish Cycling Club by 2 seconds, just in front of Keith Etchison from OTR. Thanks for your comment on Facebook again today, Keith. Wishing me luck. I'm sure there's plenty of faux pas in there, but they help make it more entertaining. I've spent years swearing at football commentators for making faux pas in the commentary. I know I understand why they do it. But lovely to see you, Keith, and thanks for your contribution on Facebook today. This has been fantastic. It is a fantastic tour, and it's not over yet. So there's stages to come. We're in the second week. We're at the business end of it. Oh, Derek Bucock. That's why there wasn't any betting, wasn't it? So Derek Bucock for OTR, 103rd there. Um, what a shame, Derek. You should be watching when I'm commentating so that we can all have betting on it. More results piling in. Tony Simons, Flynn Brass, Leon Parks for Ratio Racing again, Paul Pudell, OTR, Julian Fussell for South District Wheelers, and Anders Johnson for RGT Sweden. Chris and Edge, one of the Pokemotion riders, 37th. We still have 57 finishers to come in. Per Sonberg, another OTR rider in that familiar black, white and green OTR kit, coming up to the finishing line now. 53 minutes and 40 on the clock, so it's going to be a little bit over that, about 53.50 I would say, and 1 hour 26, nearly 27 I suppose by the time he finishes, but very well done. And I think that was some very tough climbs at the beginning of this, in the Kent Hills, just before it all drops into the ocean, where the sea wore away once the chain of hills that went all the way from Kent and Sussex in southern England all the way down to Champagne. T. Harris there, Poland's 50th finisher. He's not the 50th Pole to finish. Finishing 50th for Poland. How's that? That's probably a better way of putting it. Behind him, Jay Brown, Peter Austin from Leatherhead in Surrey, Simon Miller from Tunbridge Wells in Kent, the South District Wheelers rider ahead of Maillard and Murphy. Did I say Murphy? No, it's not. The positions are changing behind. Well done, Harris. That was a great ride. Jay Brown in Pokemotion kit, but it says DHC afterwards, so I'm a bit confused. Not sure if he's a Pokemotion rider or not. As you can see, the finishing line 150 metres odd away, and rolls in, no doubt delighted to see it, and should get a round of applause from the avatars at the side of the road, deservedly so. Well done. So here they come, Leon from Spain. Oh, nearly got pipped there. Nearly got pipped. Alex Plaisir, I think that might have been. Bushman from Germany, now rolling home. Nobody sneaking up behind him. There's still quite a few people, if you look at the bottom right hand corner of your screen, there's still quite a few people going up the hill. So I think we're going to be here for a while if we watch every single rider come in. 46 still to finish. Somebody's still in the middle of the channel by the looks of things. I think there's a little bit of a gap between the people at the top of the hill and the people who are nearly at the finishing line. So I think when we see the next clutch come through, we'll give everybody their 2 seconds of fame as they cross the line, but probably not. There's a huge gap between the bunch coming in now and the next phase. So we'll watch the next phase, I think, and give everybody a little shout out. Tolstra, Bennett there, Horton, all coming in. They can see the finishing line, and there's not too many of those to come now, I think, because I think when Person finishes is 2.4 kilometres left. So I think 70th is where we'll probably pull the curtains. Person is, as I say, so far ahead of the next rider, at least a kilometre, but that's probably a very decent place to cut the coverage. He's got 400 metres to go. Now, look out on OTR if you want the results of the Tour du Monde. OTR have got their own Facebook page where they publish the results. They'll be up there later. James is probably going to be like me on spreadsheets. I shall be doing the spreadsheets for the West London VR races, all the ladies' positions, all the team classifications, and everything else that goes with that. So James and I will probably have a stiff drink and a laptop on the table with us for the rest of the evening. You can look out on OTR's Facebook page for their results for the Tour du Monde. My results will be on www.westlondoncycling.com, and if you look on there, there'll probably be a news item and various links to standing, etc. As we see Person, the 70th rider in today's Tour du Monde, with still 35 finishes to come. Well, this has been a bumper edition. Thanks very much to Damon. Thanks again to James and everybody else at OTR for putting this wonderful series on. We'll be back tomorrow. We've got the Great Barrier Reef tomorrow. Imagine if this was a real race. Imagine having to fly all those cyclists. As soon as they finish, right, on the plane, lads. we're going to the other side of the world now. Great Barrier Reef, eh? I don't know much about the Barrier Reef, to be honest. But I assume, looking at the pictures, that this is also under the sea. So, yes, this is fantastic stuff, isn't it? It's 20,000 leagues under the sea. Well, doesn't that look fantastic? That's got to be watched. Make sure you're on. Make sure you're there. 6:45 tomorrow. Tour du Monde, stage 10. Great Barrier Reef, 54.3 kilometres, about the same today. Elevation 222 metres. That can't be missed. Be there, and I'll see you sometime before then, commentating on something. I won't be commentating on that one tomorrow. I will be back in a fortnight. That is for certain for the next West London DR race. Thanks to everybody. Damon. Fantastic job again, and of course this was all planned out to work so smoothly. See you next time.